Hector says, hey, Doc, any thoughts on reversing ankylosing spondylitis? Well, that's kind of an out of the nowhere type question, Hector. But yeah, lots of thoughts on reversing ankylosing spondylitis. And the first one I would say is read No Grain, No Pain and apply the diet. If you read and apply the diet, you'll have a profound impact on the progression of your illness. Profound. I've seen a number of cases of AS actually go into remission through diet change. Let's see. Happy Monday, Renee. What's a better method for vitamin D3 lower doses, 5,000 every few days or 1,000 every day? Also, how long does it take yeast to leave your system if you have an overgrowth? So let's tackle question number one first. A better method for vitamin D3 lower doses. Better method, well, it depends on how low your vitamin D is. So if you're going to be taking vitamin D on a daily basis, the best way is to have your doctor measure it for you. We're looking at 25 OHD being the proper test to really look at this. 25 OHD, and we want a level somewhere, ideally, my advice is somewhere between 70 and 100. Now, the range for most lab tests is 20 to 100. I like to see it above, somewhere between 70 and 100, especially if you've got a history of autoimmunity. And so that being the case, if it's, let's just say your level's at 20, to get it to go from 20 to 70, 5,000 won't do that. 5,000 units a day or every few days won't do that. 1,000 units a day won't do that. If you want to get it from 20 to 70, we're talking probably 8 to 10,000 units a day for several months to get it to make that kind of jump. Otherwise, you're just spitting on a forest fire. That generally that quantity is usually it's just not enough to get that level elevated enough. So if you're taking 5,000 units, it's a very safe thing to do, by the way, to take 5,000 units per day. 1,000 units a day is not going to do much for the average adult person. So not something I'd typically recommend if you're trying to be effective. Let's see. Anne wants to know, as a woman over 40, how do I get more testosterone to assist with keeping muscle growth? Heard recently how important testosterone is for women as well. Is this correct? Yeah, testosterone is very important, although less important for women than men. But how do you maintain adequate testosterone levels? The number one thing that you can do, male or female, is to lift weights. So if you want to increase your testosterone, increase the weight. Now, you don't have to get super heavy. You don't have to, try to, deadlift 300 pounds or, bench press 250 pounds or anything like that. You want to make sure you're doing weight-bearing activity very consistently. I would advise the average person who's not in great physical shape to start off with, something like 4 times a week where you're doing 4 to 10 minute high intensity repetitious exercises using only body weight. So not using heavy weight, but using body weight. Things like push-ups, pull-ups, squats, lunges, plank holds, jump ropes, short distance sprinting. Like, these are just real simple and really effective ways to tell your body that you need your muscle to start growing. And when you do that, that's going to increase your testosterone production. Now, it's also important to understand that testosterone requires zinc. If you're zinc deficient, it will be very, very hard for you to produce adequate levels of testosterone. So ask your doctor to measure your zinc levels, because zinc plays a central, crucial role in how you're able and capable of producing testosterone. And as I said earlier, I erased it already, but eggs are a form of dietary cholesterol, and we said that they were not bad for you. And one of the things I mentioned there is that cholesterol was a precursor, or is a precursor. It's the mother hormone. It helps you make testosterone. So sometimes, if you're having your cholesterol suppressed either through diet or through medication manipulation, you could actually be lowering your testosterone. So those would all be kind of general things to consider, Ann. Let's see here. What's my take on fulvic acid? Depends. I mean, fulvic acid, I have some supplements that contain fulvic acid, certain minerals and other things. I'm not opposed to fulvic acid, but, maybe ask me more specifically, for what reasons or for what purpose. Let's see. Trish says, still detoxifying from gluten, 5 weeks now. Will it ever end? Yes, it will end. And you may not just be detoxifying from gluten, Trish. I don't know if you're under the supervision or if anybody's working with you or guiding you through that process. Feel free to join our support group on Facebook. It's the Dr. Osborne Support Community. If you just type that into your Facebook search, You can pull that up, and we have a couple thousand people in that group kind of helping each other along as a community. It might be a good way for you to get some feedback from others who are struggling or going through the same type of issue. But yes, it does end. But again, if you get beyond 8 weeks, there's something missing. There's something you're doing either wrong or something that you're missing, and that you may need additional information. Okay. Let's see here. Love it. You're welcome, Tamara. Tamara says, thanks from Utah. Let's see. Ruth, 7 weeks. And we have more training than the typical doctor. Thank you. Yeah, so if you're 7 weeks into the Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain Show, I promise you those 7 hours will be far more valuable and superior than any training that's being taught in medical school today. Let's see here. Are eggs inflammatory? They can be for some people. I mean, egg is one of the top 8 allergens. So again, when I said earlier that eggs are not bad because of the cholesterol, it doesn't mean that a person can't be allergic to them. Any person can be allergic to any food. And that, again, that depends on the individual nature of the person. So eggs can be inflammatory for some. That's why many diets, including my no grain, no pain phase 2 diet, is eliminating that aspect of egg, or can eliminate that aspect of egg, because for some people with autoimmune disease, egg can be a trigger. It's not always the case, though. In my experience, it's maybe the case, I'd say probably less than 20% of the time. So, but you can have an allergy to egg, and that's not uncommon. Let's see, just took a course on this. Let's see. Oh, fibroids, Teresa. So fibroid, if you've got a fibroid, depending on where the fibroid is, if it's a uterine fibroid or whether or not it's fibrocystic breast tissue, it's oftentimes associated with gluten sensitivity, Teresa. So again, if you haven't gone grain-free, that would be a really good place to just begin the process of diet change to see if you found any improvement. I've seen a number of people over the years who changed their diet and changed the outlook on the fibroid itself. Let's see. What about an alkaline diet? What about an alkaline diet, Stacy? More specificity for me. An alkaline diet for what? Let's see. What about the China study by Colin Campbell, where he talks about the protein from vegetables is better in our bodies than animal protein, and animal protein increases cancer risk? So there's some very loose studies that have been done. The China study is more, in my opinion, it's not a comprehensive study. It's a highly opinionated book. There are actually a couple great authors who've debunked the China study. You can look up "debunk the China study myth," and you can find out more in detail information. But some of the circulating rumors are that the protein in animal products can create a byproduct in the colon that increases the risk for certain types of cancers. And look, these studies are far from over and far from done. There are a couple of cultures where we can really pull knowledge and information from. And one is for example, the Alaskan Inuit culture, who eats predominantly whale fat as part of their diet, as part of their staple food, and they have very low incidence of any type of cancer. So we can't really make the claim that animal foods or animal products increase the risk in cancer for everyone who's in existence. And we also can't make the claim that plant-based proteins are somehow superior to animal proteins, especially when you consider that many of the plant-based proteins, for example, like soy, are genetically modified. Many of, like your soy contains, for men, high levels of estrogen. It would probably be a poorer choice for a lot of men to choose textured vegetable protein supplements and soy-based protein powders as a means to get the vast majority of their protein. It just, again, that's not a really, I know the China study is a really popular book. I don't want to say anything bad about T. Colin Campbell. I'm sure he's got his own experiences and his own opinions, but in my experience, not everybody's suited for a vegetarian diet, and we can't generalize that a vegetarian diet is somehow superior over a meat-based diet. None of that's been proven in any research we'll just say that we could say any research that's been done that's been definitive. Most of it's done in really, most of the writing is done in like either really small scale trials that can't be replicated in the long term, or it's been done where somebody took a liberty with the information that was being published, too great of a liberty. Okay, let's see. Best natural remedy from itchiness to mold exposure at work until I can find a new job. Try HistaSyst, Elaine. If you're looking for a natural remedy for itching, HistaSyst. It's a mixture of many different things. The two of the main ingredients are quercetin and vitamin C, but it's a great natural mast cell stabilizer. So the ingredients in it help stabilize the cell called a mast cell, which is what releases histamine and then causes a lot of that itching. Let's see. With scleroderma affecting collagen, the face and lips, should it cause harmful to use collagen base for creams? I think what you're asking is collagen base in a cream harmful to somebody with scleroderma? And I'd say probably not something I would be really super concerned with, David. Okay. Could anyone who is gluten sensitive develop thyroiditis, or do you have to have a genetic predisposition first? So Rita, gluten sensitivity is a genetic predisposition. It's not a disease. A lot of people think gluten sensitivity is an allergy or some type of disease. Gluten sensitivity is a genetic predisposition. If you haven't been genetically tested, go visit glutenfreesociety.org. They've got a big tab at the main menu that says genetic testing. Get genetically tested. Make sure that going gluten-free is the right move for you. It's not the right move necessarily for everyone, but it might be the right move for you. So when you think about gluten sensitivity, don't think of it as a disease. Think of it as, if you're genetically gluten sensitive, if you have those predisposition genes and you subject those genes to gluten, then the outcome of that is going to be that your body's going to make inflammation against it. And that inflammation creates collateral damage that can lead to a host of over 100 different forms of illness. Celiac is just one of them. I mean, celiac gets a lot of the credit with gluten sensitivity. This is simply because, we discovered celiac disease as an autoimmune disease. We discovered that gluten caused it in the early 1950s. And so it just got the most press and still gets the most press today. But there's a term that many doctors and researchers use. A term is non-celiac gluten sensitivity. It's because many people with gluten sensitivity never develop celiac disease, but develop neuropathy or develop liver damage or develop a host or a battery of different types of illnesses that have nothing to do with their gut. And so again, you have to understand that gluten sensitivity is not a disease. It's a state of genetics. Get genetically tested if you really want to understand whether or not going gluten-free is the right move for you. Okay, let's see. A lot of you are loving eggs, so that's good. So maybe I can let you eat. The knowledge tonight helps you eat eggs with less guilt or less stress on your conscience. What are my thoughts on the ketogenic and the Mediterranean diet? Look, ketogenic diet, Matt, is it's a great diet for anyone with epileptic seizure disorder. It's a great diet for somebody with cancer. It can be a great diet for somebody who's struggling with carbohydrate toxicity. A lot of people respond really well to a keto diet more because they're going grain-free than because they're actually improving their fat count. But ketogenic diets, again, they're effective, but I don't think that long-term, I don't think they're balanced. Just like long-term, I don't think a low-fat diet is balanced. And I think if you really want to look at Mother Nature and how everything has been designed, it's designed to work in balance and harmony. I'm more a fan of a balanced diet. So some people go ketogenic, in the short term, and they lose weight and they feel better, they have more energy. And what I have seen over the number of years is a lot of people go keto and then they start gravitating back to kind of this general rule of thirds, which is, and my graph is not perfect, so don't make fun of it. Imagine your diet being basically an equal distribution of carbs, fats, and proteins. A third, if you will, the rule of thirds, a third carb, a third fat, a third protein. This would be balanced. Now, I'm not saying get out the scale and weigh everything every day. Although I am saying that too, because if you've never done that, it's a very enlightening exercise to perform with yourself. But most people, ketogenic, they're falling like 70 to 90% fat, right? And then the rest mop up with carb and protein. Or most Americans on average are like 70+% carbohydrate and then low protein, low fat. So both diets, in my opinion, aren't great for anybody long term. So ketogenic diet, again, therapeutically for cancer, very good choice. Therapeutically for epileptic seizure disorder, very good choice. Therapeutically for somebody with carbohydrate toxicity who's been following a standard American diet for years and they're trying to kind of move and shift their body's ability to metabolize fat a little bit better, great choice in the short term. But forever, no, I don't think you stay in ketosis forever. I don't think that's the smartest move, for the average person. That's my opinion. That's my clinical experience. And certainly there are people out there that will disagree with that and that will argue with that. But that's kind of my short take on it. And if you want to watch more about the keto diet and you want to dive in a little bit more aggressively to keto, I did an entire show on the ketogenic diet, and you can learn that. And it's called the Keto Crash Course. And you can pull that up in my archives on YouTube. Let's see here. I am gluten sensitive and non-celiac, but I tolerate oats. Is that okay? Well, Daniela, do you have a misunderstanding of gluten sensitivity? If you're gluten sensitive, you don't really tolerate oats. You might not react to them immediately. You might not have an overt reaction, but oats have a form of gluten in them called avenin. There's no such thing as a gluten-free oat. And so if you're really, truly gluten sensitive, in my opinion, you shouldn't be eating oats. No, to my knowledge, there's no genetic testing for casein allergy, but there's a lot of testing for casein allergy that is not genetic that is very easy to get access to. If gluten sensitivity to gluten occurs because of a reaction to antibiotics, is that reversible? So Hollywood, if gluten sensitivity occurs because of antibiotics, so let's think of it gluten sensitivity doesn't occur because of antibiotics. Gluten sensitivity symptoms may get triggered because of a round of antibiotics, but a person is or isn't gluten sensitive. They either have the genetic predisposition or you don't. What happens to some people is they have the genetic predisposition and then they have a negative reaction to antibiotics, and then the symptoms of gluten sensitivity come crashing in. And so is that reversible? Yeah, after overcoming the damage that the antibiotics can do. A lot of people overdo the antibiotics in their life, but the damage is still reversible. And I have a really good video on do antibiotics cause celiac disease. If you want to dive into some more of the research behind that, you can watch that and get more information. Let's see here. Is it a myth that genetic gluten sensitivity is not an autoimmune condition? No, again, genetic gluten sensitivity is not a disease. It's a state of genetics. So this is why it's so important to get tested. So many people go gluten-free and they feel better, but they don't know why. They think they're gluten sensitive. So many people go keto, and because keto is gluten-free, they feel better and they think they feel better because of keto, but they may actually feel better because they're going gluten-free. So again, knowledge is power. Knowing whether or not staying off of gluten indefinitely is the right move for you is where it's at. Like if you really want to get customized with your diet, don't mess around. Don't guess around about whether or not going gluten-free is a good move. Just get tested, get it done. We also have a gluten quiz you can take if you want to take a quiz. But again, a quiz, it's about 33 questions. And if you answer, enough of them, with the right answers, then you will kind of try to estimate for you. But, a quiz is no substitute for genetic testing. Let's see. Yeah, I can't get past 2.5 weeks. Some of you said the gluten-free diet can't get past 2.5 weeks. Yeah, I mean, this is why I think genetic testing, people should do it, because it can give you the gumption. It can give you the not knowing whether or not you need to change your diet. First of all, understand this. The gluten-free diet is a 12-week learning curve minimum. It's going to take you 12 weeks just to figure it out, right? And this is why most people fail at it, because they go 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks into the diet and they really don't do it right because they haven't gotten through the learning curve yet. And when they're not feeling fully better, they kind of quit. And then they go out and say, oh, the diet didn't work for me. I'm not gluten sensitive. No, get tested. And then if you need to commit to the diet, then commit to the 12-week learning curve, commit to the change, because it is not a temporary change. It is a lifelong change that you'll need to make in order to maximize your health. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Tiffany's question. Husband has high triglycerides and high LDL. How do we know if this is related to blood sugar, possibly from high LPS from root canal? Well, first questions first, Tiffany. Looking at his diet would be the first thing to do, because triglycerides are oftentimes high as a result of diet. They're a lot less often high as a result of LPS. Generally, LPS from a root canal is not the cause of high triglycerides. I would say, it's, in my experience, it's a much more rare scenario than the diet being the culprit. But yeah, get with a good functional doc and get some testing done, and that's how you're really going to get to the root of it. Okay, Brigitte. Hi, Dr. Osborne. Could too little protein in the diet trigger insomnia? Yes, it can. I like that question. And one of the reasons why is part of how we sleep is through neurotransmitters or neurochemicals, right? Neurochemicals like dopamine and dopamine and serotonin and melatonin, and these neurochemicals are made from amino acids and vitamins and minerals. So what happens, your body biochemically will take certain amino acids, put them together in long chains under the direction of vitamins and minerals, what are called cofactors. And if you aren't sleeping adequately because you don't, for example, have adequate melatonin, or you don't produce adequate serotonin to convert to melatonin, low level of protein in the diet, if your tryptophan level is too low, it can create anxiety at night. It can create trouble sleeping at night. So simply put, it can absolutely trigger it. And what I gave you was just a few different examples. Linda wants to know, is it possible to have a reversed issue with omega-3, 6, too much 3 and not enough 6? It's possible, but not likely. Not likely really at all in today's world. Very, very difficult to get it to go to that level. Let's see here. What's next here? Big question. What contributes to heart disease and cancer? Number one thing, June, is inflammation. Bigger question is what causes the inflammation. There's 4 primary choices you make every day that will cause inflammation. Biggest one is food, chemical exposure, nutritional balance, and whether or not you have nutritional deficits. These are like 4 biochemical triggers, and then microbial or infectious problems that you might have. Now, there are other choices that you can make, like how much sleep you get, and whether you exercise, whether you get sunshine, whether you're drinking clean water, breathing clean air. Like, those are also things that might contribute to inflammation. So the bigger question is, what are you doing in your current day-to-day life that's either contributing to aggressive inflammation or creating a normalized state in your body, and creating a state where your body has the capacity to heal and repair itself? Because some inflammation is good, but it's the chronic abundance of inflammation that creates those illnesses. I don't understand your question, Sharon. The best gluten-free caloric intake. Not sure I understand what you mean by that. Don't know, Virginia. If you went grain-free for 2 months and felt no different than when you were gluten-free, does that mean you're not gluten sensitive? No, it doesn't mean a whole lot at all, because it takes 2 months just to get the gluten out of your system. So if you did it for, I don't know what 2+ months is, but I'd say you got to be at least 6 months out before you can make that kind of determination, and really get tested. If you're not sure, get tested. All righty, let's see here. I like this. So on that note, Marie says, I had the genetic testing done, ordered from Gluten-Free Society, and positive, and I feel so much better since going gluten and grain-free, and basically saved my life from having an autoimmune disease, ALS, like my mom died from. Thanks for sharing that, Marie. That's powerful. Get tested. Look, get tested. It's not worth letting another 10 or 15 years go by and not knowing, and you're doing all this slow poison damage to your body. You understand that sometimes autoimmune disease, it builds. And because it's such a hard thing to diagnose, remember that doctors today are not really trained in autoimmune disease. It's not a specialty. You have subspecialties like endocrinology and rheumatology for joint-based autoimmune diseases or soft tissue-based autoimmune diseases, but there's no great specialty and no great overlap amongst the specialties. And this is why the average person with autoimmune disease takes 35+ years to get a diagnosis. So, if gluten is the number one factor involved in the causation of autoimmune disease in the research, and we know that it is, that's why I wrote No Grain, No Pain, then get tested. If you've got autoimmune disease and you don't know why, quit jumping around at straws. Get tested and get it done so that you can make a decision about whether or not you need to commit. I know I'm being redundant here, but I think it's that important. Okay, I'm going to take one more question because they just keep coming in, and I don't have time all night to stay on. But let's see. I don't have celiac disease, but I'm gluten sensitive. Is it because I have Hashimoto's? That's what Ina wants to know. It would be more the opposite, Ina. So like what you're asking me is, you don't have celiac disease diagnosed. You are gluten sensitive. Is your gluten sensitivity because of Hashimoto's? No. Is your Hashimoto's possibly because of gluten sensitivity? Yes. Now, are there other triggers and causes for Hashimoto's? Yes. But gluten is a big one. And I think to date, we're going on over 300 peer-reviewed medical studies linking gluten to thyroid conditions. So, it's no longer a guess. It's no longer an esoteric thing. There's enough data in the medical research that justifies that those with Hashimoto's are very likely gluten sensitive. And there's a lot of research showing that gluten-free diets help tremendously with people that have Hashimoto's by reducing their antibody levels and improving their body's capacity to produce their own thyroid hormone and overall their outcome. So, okay. I know that we've got a lot more of you asking questions. I just want to say, look, this is your first time tuning into the Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain Show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and get notified. We have a show every Monday night at 6 p.m. We're back here, Texas time, Central time. You can also make sure you subscribe to the channel. We put out about a video a day. We try to do about 7 videos a week for your education. And remember, as always, if you haven't already, give me that. Type that in right here. Hashtag save 100 million lives. That's how people find us. Remember, our goal here is to help the more than 100 million chronically sick people who are suffering with autoimmune disease or suspected autoimmune disease find real nutritional answers to their problems and not drug-based solutions. So help me reach more people by sharing this knowledge. If you find it helpful, keep tuning in, but if we can bring in more people that can find it helpful, even better. We all win that way. So thanks for tuning in and spending your Monday night with me. This is Dr. Osborne wishing you excellent health. Hey, if you've got a functional medicine or health question that you'd like me to answer for you, make sure you send me an email, glutenology@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to create a video answer just for you. Have a great day.